A risk limiting audit gives us the ability to audit how our ballots are counted during the actual election. Previous audits, you didn't compare how the machine performed during the election. It was usually comparing a hand count and running it through the scanners post-election. So we really didn't know that the machines performed correctly during the election. So risk limiting audits give us the ability to do that. Sure. We started in 2013 here. The Secretary of State approached us about doing a pilot for a risk-limiting audit then, and we were happy to get involved because we knew that the previous way that we audited post-election wasn't sufficient. It didn't give us a really good idea of how the machines performed during the election, so we were happy to participate in it. We learned a lot. It was at times a painful process to get there. We had to scan our ballots in 2 different types of tabulation softwares to be able to get a cast vote record, because our previous equipment only counted by batch. We didn't have individual cast vote records. So we had to go through a second scan. We had to make sure that we kept the ballots in perfect order between the first scan and the second scan. So we really learned, we always did a good job of taking care of ballots and making sure they stayed where they were supposed to stay, but it was so important that one ballot couldn't get out of place. We also learned the importance of having an imprinter in the process, so that, heaven forbid, if a ballot does get out of place, there's a marking on the ballot that you can still go back and say this is the correct ballot. And so it was a lot of those things, including the types of labels that we put on our ballot storage boxes, and how our processing forms in tabulation, how they were set up to make sure that it was they were optimal for a risk limiting audit. So we learned a great deal from it in 13. And then in 14, we decided to keep going on our own here in Arapahoe County. So we invited stakeholders in, Philip Stark from Berkeley, Hari Hursty, Maggie McAlpine, other stakeholders to come in and help us do it again, because we really liked the process and we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose momentum, and the state was happy to help with that as well. And so we found that it does give us a greater assurance about how our machines performed, and there's also a lot of operational efficiencies to an audit as well. In most cases with a risk limiting audit, we will audit less ballots than we would have had to before on an audit that didn't give us a good picture and as much confidence in the process. So it's really a win-win for us operationally and for our community as a whole to know that the correct outcome happened in the election.
So you just
Sure, definitely efficiency to the process. Before, in previous elections, we had to audit 500 paper ballots, and you have to do a hand count of those, which any of those of us who've been in elections know hand counts are very inexact and very painful. So we had to hand count it, and then we had to go and run those through the tabulation machine again. With a risk limiting audit, the hand count is no longer part of that process. We go to the individual cast vote record to compare how the machine counted that ballot at the time during the election it was counted, which is big. So as we go out and talk to our community and our citizens about that, we can tell them they can have greater confidence in the process. And operationally, like I said, the fact that with the risk limit, and the fact it's based on statistics now, we can audit fewer ballots and have a greater certainty in the outcome of the election. So it's a win-win both ways. I think a great place to start is here on our Secretary of State's website, our Colorado Department of State website, where there's a lot of resources from Boulder County and their experiments with this, because really what happened in Boulder County and here in Pitkin County, it was experiments to help us get to this point. And so all of that information is on the Secretary of State's website. And as you look at it and you look at what this audit can do at a time when people in our industry are under intense scrutiny, and there's been a lot of things said about our industry unfairly, I think anything that we can do to boost the public's confidence in what we do, we need to go down that road. And when you look at risk limits, risk limiting audits, once you get past the painful point that we went through in the pilots, right now it's pretty easy. When you get right down to it, it's pretty easy to do. So definitely do some research, and we're happy to answer any questions that people may have. But we think it's a great tool going forward. I think we need to keep pushing both. It's a layered question now, right? We've seen with cybersecurity and the threats that we saw last year to our voter registration systems, and now with our tabulation systems, how can people be sure that the ballots were counted properly? So I think we need to keep pushing the envelope. We shouldn't be satisfied with where we are. We need to be as transparent as possible and keep looking for ways where people can get greater and greater confidence in what we do. Sure, it was huge, and I think that's one of the things that was awesome about this process here in Colorado. You had counties working on this. You had great investment in time from the Secretary of State's office. And then we had a group of election activists and stakeholders who came together with the express purpose to make the election process better. And it's people who, if we were to go out for a beer, we probably wouldn't, agree on many things, but everybody came together because we wanted to make the process better. We wanted to make it more transparent, and we wanted the public to have greater confidence in what we do. And so I think that's one of the most rewarding things about what we've done in Colorado is that collaboration. It's really cool when people can get together with the same mindset and get something done.